Hey everyone. In this video we'll be modeling this abstract cubic shape that you see here. This is actually a continuation video, or I should say a companion video for my previous 3ds Max tutorial, in which we explored some techniques to achieve this object, which can be 3D printable. It's based on the Schwartz P minimal surface family, and this here is actually a render I did of the model using the Corona render engine in 3ds Max. However, in this video obviously we'll be creating this object using Blender. Okay, so let's get started. We'll start with an empty scene here in Blender, and I will say up front that I am using the latest release of Blender, version 2.76. I do have a few add-ons enabled already. If you don't know how to enable add-ons, you may wish to seek out some tutorials on that. I won't get involved in that here. However, I will say that in this tutorial I will be employing the use of the Loop Tools add-on, which I believe everyone should have enabled. It's a really useful tool. Also the pie menus and the dynamic spacebar menu add-on, which is not essential for the completion of this tutorial. Let's get started. First thing we'll do here in Blender to create this object is just simply to go ahead and bring in a regular cube. Okay, now if you're going to do this for 3D print, obviously I'm going to work arbitrarily for this tutorial, but you will want to pay attention to your scene scale if you intend to 3D print this later on. In the future I may do a scale tutorial and go over some of the different techniques to that, but for now it's going to be just a technique tutorial. Alright, so here we are with just a standard cube in the scene. And the first thing we'll want to do is enter edit mode and switch to faces. And I'm going to hold Alt on the keyboard while I tap the E key to bring out the extrude menu. And I'm going to select individual faces and just begin to pull out some extrusions here on each face. I'm going to manually input an offset of -0.5 and enter that. Alright, so we've extruded each face by 0.5, and then we will tap the X key to bring up our delete menu and just delete the faces. Okay, so then we're left with this object, and we can go back out to object mode and go up to our modifier panel, and we're going to use the array generation, okay, tool modifier. So we'll tap in and bring in one array modifier for now, and the first thing we'll do is change the count to 3, because this will be a triply periodic. It starts out as a triply periodic minimal surface, so we need a count of 3. And then I will tick the merge option, okay, and I will leave the relative offset for the x-axis at 1. Alright, now once we have this first array modifier set to go, we need to hit copy twice. Alright, and that'll bring up 2 additional instances of the array modifier here in our panel. Okay, so we'll go down to the second array, and all we need to change here is this 1.0 on the x-axis. We will change to 0.0, and we will bring 1.0 in on the y-axis relative offset. Alright, so the second parameter here is 1.0. Okay, and you can see what that's doing already. Okay, so now we'll go down to the third instance, and we will change change the 1.0 again to 0.0. And we'll go down to the z-axis here and we'll change that to 1.0. Alright. And that's all we need to do with the array. So we can go back up to the top and apply the first one and the second and then the third. So that what that has done is created a triply periodic arrangement of boxes, and conveniently enough in Blender, unlike 3ds Max, the Array Modifier does also have a merge option, so this is at this point all welded together as one object. Alright, so we could tab into our edit mode here and begin our editing of this object. So now when we're in edit mode, we could see the topology of the object, and the first thing we'll do is switch to our edge mode. Okay, and I have my, by the way, I do have my sub-object selections hotkeyed, but if you don't have them hotkeyed, you can either use the, I believe is it control? Yeah, control tab will bring up your mesh select mode so you can switch to different sub-object elements, or you could just use the buttons at the bottom. I have customized hotkeys to quickly jump to each one, so I recommend doing that for quicker workflow if possible. Alright, but so now we're in edge mode, and holding down Shift and Alt on the keyboard, I will just right click on one of the edges and select the entire edge loop, and then holding down Shift and tapping on G to bring up the Select Similar menu, I'll choose the face angles. Okay, and the default threshold here should be good enough to capture all of the edge loops in between each section of boxes here. Alright, so that's what we want to select at this point, and it looks like it did a fine job at that. So those are the edge loops we want. So now we will tap on the X key to bring up again our delete menu, and this time we're going to choose dissolve edges. And that will actually do exactly that and dissolve all of those interior edge loops. Okay, so now we're left with this object, and you can see this is getting a little closer now to you know, a triply periodic minimal surface. Alright, so the next step, we will switch to our face mode, and I will hold down Shift and Alt at the same time and select an edge around one of these extrusions to grab the entire face loop there on that extruded portion. Okay, and we want to do the same to all of these extruded faces. So in order to do that, we will hold down Shift, bring up G for Select Similar, and we will choose the perimeter option. Okay, and again with the default threshold of 0.01, it appears to have done the job correctly. Okay, and these are all the intended faces that I wish to select. So now we will tap on the excuse me, we will tap on the X key again to bring up our delete menu and just delete by faces. Okay, so now we're left with this shape. Okay, and what we're going to do next while we're in face mode is, if you look at this object, and you could do this in perspective, or you could do it in orthographic if it's easier for you to see. But if you look at it dead on, you will see that there is a pattern of faces here right straight in the middle of each side that make up a little like a plus symbol shape. So what we're going to do is select all four of those central faces, okay, on each side. Okay, so we're going to go to each side and just select them manually instead of monkeying about with the Select Similar option. This does not consume that much time. I tried some select similar options for this and couldn't find one that gave me a satisfactory result initially, so I just decided it doesn't take much to select them all manually. And this is all we're looking to do at this point, is just select all of these central faces, okay, and tap the X key and just delete the faces. Alright, so here we are with this shape. And if we glance back at our render from the 3ds Max model, you can see that we have something resembling a base model of that object. Now here's where the difference in workflow will come in if you're coming from a 3ds Max background to Blender. And maybe there's something I'm missing here, so I'm sure you know, advanced Blender users might know the trick behind this, but the next step is to remove. We're going to switch to edge mode, and the next step is to select all of these corner edges at the junctions of each face, each of the faces that are in an L shape here. Okay, so all of these corner edges only. Okay, so I did the first row of corner edges there, and I'm going to select the second level of edges on the object. Okay, just like that. And now I'll go to the top and I will select only these junction edges, as I'll call them. Alright, on each corner there. Okay, and then on the bottom the same. Okay, and these are the only edges you really want to select at this point. Alright, but now here's the part I couldn't you know, get past, other than this technique that I'm going to show you now, is in Blender, if we go and we remove these edges, and you could just do it by tapping X and selecting edges, you could see that it takes the faces with it. Now, let me Control Z that. Now, if we try any other, if we dissolve the edges, for example, we're going to end up with this shape, and that's not quite the effect that we are hoping to achieve here. What I would love to do is just to remove these edges, but retain an end-gon in these sections without the edge, so to retain an end-gon with vertices attached, and hold this shape, but still hold this shape. If you look at the 3ds Max tutorial, you see that's exactly what we've done over there, and it worked. But I have not been able to achieve the same result here. Again, maybe there's an option that I'm missing where I could just remove these edges and maintain the shape of these faces as an end-gon, but I haven't solved that. So if we remove the edges, what we have here in Blender is basically just a skeletal remains of these corner shapes. Okay, it did retain the edges that we will need to rebuild the end-gons in this form, but it did not save the faces. Okay, so there are no faces attached to these edges. They're just a skeleton of edges. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit more time consuming, because what we'll do next is rebuild those faces. And you know, this is a little bit time consuming, but I'll show you how to do it, and then maybe I'll just cut to the end result here. Okay, so here's how we'll do it. We're going to select, I'm going to hold down Shift on the keyboard. I'm going to select the first edge, the second edge, third and fourth edge. Okay, so just like this in each section. Alright, and tap the F key to rebuild an end-gon face. Okay. And then I'll just move on to the next section and select it by, I'm going to hold down Shift after the first selection and select all of those edges and tap the F key. Okay, now you can see this is kind of the result I wanted was how this one looks. It's an n-gon, but it's still in the shape of the previous topology. But some of them come out with the inner triangularization, causing this kind of effect where it looks like there's a face all the way through here. It's just the only difference between this one and this one is the way Blender is interpreting that inner triangulated edge. Each of these n-gons subsequently will have what you might call an invisible edge in here that is triangulating these faces, and it's just how it's rotated in here that is causing it to either appear like this, which is how the original topology looked, or it may appear like this, but both of them will work regardless of how it's being interpreted by the software. This is what we want. Okay, so I'll move on to the next one. Okay, and I'll do a few of these just to show you, and then I may pause it to the end since this is a little time consuming and boring. Alright, so I did the same thing to that section. Alright, so I'm going to go around the whole object and basically do that. When I reach these corner points, I'm going to select this one, alright, and then this one, and tap F. Okay, so this is the result we want, and then I'll move on to the next one. Let's see, you got to be careful here because these edges are a little hard to see depending on your background. If you're using a theme where your background is totally black, I don't know what these might look like, but they may actually be invisible. Alright, so we'll do this, and then we'll move on to this one. Okay, so all I'm doing is selecting each section of edges here and then tapping the F key, and we're rebuilding these faces, okay, as n-gons. Alright, so at this point I may just pause the video and jump to the end result. So here it is, all completed. I went around the entire object and did all of the rebuilding of these faces as necessary. Okay, so now we have, this is how the object should look at this point, or something very similar to this. Okay, so now that we've achieved this, we'll go out to object mode, and we'll go ahead to our modifiers, and we'll apply a subdivision surface modifier. Okay, and we'll just keep it at one iteration, and we'll tick apply, and we'll go down back into edit mode and continue editing on this surface. So this is how the surface should look after one iteration of subdivision. Okay, and as you can see, we have some sharp corners up here, which is what we want, and yet some rounded corners in between. Alright, so now we have holes all through. However, you will notice that some of these larger holes that were created by the n-gons that we subdivided are shaped a little oddly. They're not completely round in there, and we could correct that rather quickly with our loop tools. Okay, so what we'll want to do is tap the Z key, I switch to Wireframe View, tap 5 on the keyboard, then 1 to go into our front orthographic view. And now in wireframe mode, we will be able to select these edges both front and back using the box select tool. Here I tap the B key, and I just select this edge right here, but it's also selecting the edge directly behind it as well, which is what we want at this point. Alright, so I'm tapping the B key again, selecting that edge, tapping the B key again, selecting that edge, or I should say those group of edges, the B key, and then those group of edges. Then I'll tap 2 on the keyboard to go to the right ortho view. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing here to what appears to be the same edges. Of course, we're looking at it from a different viewpoint now. All right, so tab V on the or B on the keyboard, and box select that, and then B again, box select that, and so on. Okay, and we'll just go around the object like that. And I'm tapping on 7 on the number pad to go to the top ortho view, and I'm tapping B again, and I'm box selecting that group of edges, and then that, and then those down below as well. Okay. All right. So now I tap 5 on the number pad, and 1 to go into front perspective. I'll tap on Z, bring up our solid shading again, and with these edges selected, I'll go to Control E, tap on hold down Control while tapping E to bring up your edges menu, and with those edges selected, choose Edge Loops, and that will loop the selection. Okay, so now we have all of these awkwardly shaped holes selected, and we can go over to our Tools panel here on the left hand side and open up our Loop Tools, and just click on this circle option. And if you see what that did over here, let me do it one more time. We're looking right through one of these holes. They're not quite round, but now that we have it selected, we could tap on the circle button, and it will bring up, it will change those edge loops to be of a more round shape, which will just give us a better aesthetic looking object. That's really all that's for. Okay, so that's just for visual aesthetics. When you're looking through it from certain angles, you know, it'll look more like a cleanly drilled holes. Okay, so we're almost done at this point. This is our object. However, it is just a non-manifold single-sided object. So what we'll do here before we apply our thickness is we'll hold down Control and actually let's select everything. Okay, I'm going to go into face mode and select all, and by tapping the A key, and then I'll let's see, I'm going to hold down Control and tap the N key to make the normals consistent, and it looks like all of our normals were actually facing in the proper direction here. Alright, so that's a good thing. I'm tapping A to deselect, and then going out to object mode, and we'll go back over to our modifier panel here, and we'll select the solidify modifier. Okay, and immediately what I'll do first is click in this offset slider and manually type in 0.0, so we have an even offset. And then next thing I'll do first, actually let's bring up on top of this or beneath this thickness modifier or solidify modifier, we'll bring in a subdivision surface modifier, and this way we could create our thickness with the subdivisions that will be on the object, and it'll give us a better view of it. So I went up to 3 subdivisions just to see what that looks like, and now I'll go back to the solidify modifier, yes, and I will increase the thickness here. Okay, so I'm going to increase the thickness pretty good, maybe to 0.35, and then I'll give it a crease, an inner and outer crease of 0.5. Okay, so the inner and outer crease is 0.5, and I can now play with the thickness and see the results here in real time. Okay, so I'm going to go with probably a thickness of 0.3. and that'll give me a thick enough surface that if I do feel like exporting this out for to create a 3D print, I have a thick enough object here where I could create an additional wall thickness internally. Maybe I can do that even here in Blender, or I can do it in NetFab or something like that to create an additional wall thickness for 3D printing, so that it's not as expensive, which would hollow out the internal object. Okay, but so if you're just going to use this as some kind of digital asset, maybe some 3D jewelry or something like that, 3 subdivisions is clearly good enough. You can enable the smooth shading, and perhaps even apply a matte cap to look at how the surface will appear with some, with a shader on it. Okay, so it's nice and smooth there. However, if you're going to 3D print this, you will want to look at it with the flat shading and perhaps increase subdivisions to 4 and export it with 4 subdivisions for a nice smooth result. Okay, so this is the finished object here, and I hope you found this useful and informative. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video. I will have more Blender tutorials to come very shortly. Thank you very much again for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.